welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome. Feel free to like and subscribe and look out for some additional content. So today, just want to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about Florida politics. As a Florida native, I find that our politics is very unpredictable, but also very exciting. And while we are definitely 14 months away from at least for the Democratic primaries, the governor's race is starting to shape up. We have Ron DeSantis, the incumbent, is likely to face off against a couple of candidates, one from the Democratic Party, some independents or non-party affiliates, and should have a better idea of who that candidate will be within the next couple of months. So the field itself is definitely shaping up, and as of June 15th, which is today, 5 individuals have formally declared their interest in running for governor in the state. I'll talk a little bit more about those individuals in a few minutes, but I think it's important to first start off the conversation with the population increase in Florida. What has been very interesting, at least over the past couple of years, is Florida has seen an increase in folks moving to its state. We have seen about a 15% increase according to the Census Bureau. Many of those individuals moving to the state are coming from Texas, California, and New York. Florida population includes an increase in retirees. Those individuals tend to be white, Republican-leaning individuals, and those individuals are moving to areas of the western side of the state, so that includes Naples, Fort Myers, and Cape Coral. And then we are also seeing an increase in individuals who are younger to the southeast part of the state. Miami, Fort Lauderdale has, of course, seen an increase in tech jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities, and so it is forever changing the landscape down in those areas as well. And also, let's not forget the Orlando area. So the I-4 corridor has definitely seen an increase in development and people moving into, that part of the state. And so it is safe to say that the population growth right now is sitting at 300 million or 300,000, excuse me, will likely have an impact on the governor's race as well as House and Senate state races in the years to come. So for the sake of this, right now I want to kind of shift a little bit and talk a little bit about the approval ratings for Ron DeSantis. This is a recent poll out of the Florida Chambers of Commerce. I often don't necessarily pay attention to some of these polls because they can be politically leaning in terms of who is distributing it. But we don't have a lot of polls coming out of the state. But this is more so hitting on Ron DeSantis' approval rating. As of right now, the reports are showing that 53 to 55% of Floridians approve of the handling of the pandemic from Ron DeSantis, while about 40% are disapproving of his handling of the pandemic. I think it's also interesting to point out regionally how Ron DeSantis is faring. He is polling very strongly on the western side of the state. So again, those are areas that are traditionally more heavily Republican. And Ron DeSantis is polling about 30 to 35% in his approval rating in the southeast part of the state. So that includes areas like Miami, Broward County, and the Florida Keys. Now, his numbers have fluctuated a lot, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, but his increase in approval is spurred by his decision to not completely shut down the state during those challenging moments. And so, again, these numbers are definitely trending in his direction, which makes for a very challenging opportunity for Democrats in the state, as he is polling favorably amongst all demographics in the states, and that also includes some of the Democrats who have expressed appreciation for the governor. Doesn't have anybody who is intending on challenging him for the governor's seat. There have been talks of the Miami mayor putting his hat in the arena, but I don't necessarily think that is 100% accurate. Regardless if whoever decides to run against him, he's likely to do extremely well against those individuals. Here we can just take another sort of look at some of the a map of Ron DeSantis approval ratings, and as you can see, he is scoring favorably high amongst Republicans as well as amongst independent voters, which is a good section or a good swap or percentage of folks who call Florida home. So shifting a little bit, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the Democratic hopefuls who are vying for the governor's mansion. As of right now, we have a couple folks who have expressed interest and who has declared interest in running. Two notable individuals who have come out publicly include Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist is a familiar name across the state. He was and is currently a U.S. representative for the 13th District, so on the western side near Tampa. He was also a former governor of the state back in 2014, and he ran for Senate in 2010 against Rick Scott. He did not win that election. However, it came at a time when Charlie Crist decided that he wanted to switch parties and not be a Republican. Ended up running as an independent in another race, ended up losing. And so Charlie Crist, while he has been around the block in terms of politics for a very long time, he is more of a centrist. According to his website right here, Charlie is committed to working in nonpartisan manner to create jobs and increase wages and protect, the branches for the beaches from climate change. I think generally speaking, Charlie Crist has always been a very centrist individual and is likely to take that stance, especially as he begins to share out some additional information about his platform. Another notable candidate includes Nikki Fried. Nikki Fried is the sole Democratic statewide elected official in Tallahassee. She is a newcomer to the block. She is a Florida native, from what I understand. She has worked in the state for her entire life, originally from the southeast part of the state, so Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. She did her schooling at the University of Florida and has made quite a name for herself in the Agricultural Commission area of the state. She has not formally put out any information in regards to what her plans are or her platform, and so it should be noted that over the next couple of weeks, she does plan, according to some of the reports, to share out some of the things that she is interested in fixing if she is given the opportunity to head up to Tallahassee as the governor. I will note that the polling out of the state currently, there's not a lot that's coming out, but both of those individuals do have a steep uphill climb in the state. So yes, while the state itself does register a lot of Democrats, it still does slightly lean Republican. There are some other potential candidates who are looking into running. One of those individuals being Gwen Graham. I haven't seen or come across any articles or news reports about her vying for the governor's mansion, so it's still very early, and we do anticipate that there will likely be some additional folks who throw their hat in the ring. Important to note, Val Demings. There has been a lot of talks at least earlier in the season, about Val Demings running for governor. She has declined and is in fact running against Marco Rubio for the Senate seat, and I'll talk a little bit about that, of course, as we get closer towards that election time period. In terms of endorsements, I think it's very important to announce that former President Donald Trump has endorsed Ron DeSantis for governor, as well as Rick Scott, who is the current U.S. Senator for Florida, has endorsed Ron DeSantis for governor. I will also want to point out, in terms of past elections, oftentimes Florida gets, rightly so, the label of being, a battleground state. I do foresee this continuing to be the trend. I think this is the results from the 2018 governor's race between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum, a difference of about 30,000 votes, very, very razor thin. I would also venture to say that, the makeup of the state itself, it's too early to tell how the 300,000 plus individuals will impact, again, future elections. I will point out that areas including, Duval County has consistently over the past couple of years have skewed more Democratic than Republican. I do remember a couple of years ago, back when I was in college, I think this was right around the time that Barack Obama was running for president. These counties, especially in the northern central part of the state, were very, very red. And so it's very curious to see, the direction of some of these counties and how they are reporting votes. This also, very interesting for Escambia County, which is the area of Pensacola. That within itself, there has definitely been a shrinking in the Republican support in this particular area, in this particular county. And so I do foresee, some of these counties shifting a bit. There was also some questions, especially during the 2020 presidential election, about Miami-Dade County and Palm Beach County, and sort of the votes or individuals not coming out to support Joe Biden. That might be an anomaly in this case. And so I think, a couple pieces that I'm definitely looking and will be paying more attention is, of course, the area in the central part of the state. So the Orange County, Orlando, Osceola County, as well as Polk County area, recognizing that that area is growing at a very, 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 very fast rate. So to circle around and to come around and end the video itself, right now we don't have a lot of polling coming out of the state. We did have the St. Pete poll that did highlight a couple of things. I'm not going to go too far into it, or at least share too much information, because I don't think much of it is just too early. It does provide some information in terms of, demographic change, not representative totality-wise of the state, but it does give you just a brief idea of what folks are thinking like in terms of the different changes. There was some information in terms of if the election for governor were held today and the candidates were Republican Ron DeSantis and Democrat Nikki Fried, who would you vote for? It just seems like there's still a lot of folks who are undecided. That same question was posed to about Charlie Crist as well. And so, we will definitely start to get more and more polling information. I will try to pull out some of the nonpartisan polling, just so that we can remain a little bit more objective on this area. But it does show that Charlie Crist does have a significant lead, or currently has a significant lead over Nikki Fried, and she does have a large ground to overcome. But it is still very early, and I think as we get more information from both of those campaigns, as well as from Ron DeSantis, will definitely start to get an idea of those numbers shifting a bit. In terms of general predictions, it is still, Florida is still very much a battleground state. It does lean slightly to the Republican Party, but, again, Florida is Florida. It's very unpredictable. And so, things are shaping up. It seems like Ron DeSantis, according to some of these polls, does have a slight advantage over both Charlie Crist as well as Nikki Fried. And so, with the margin of error, taking that into consideration, it's still a very competitive race. I think, both of those candidates from the Democratic ticket will need to hit the ground running and will need to not only, get folks out to vote, but also will need to figure out a way of engaging the independent voters of the state. Well, that is it. I think there's definitely a lot of really good things to come. I am going to do a couple of videos, specific videos about Ron DeSantis, some of his positions, as well as with Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried. And I also want to talk a little bit about the Senate election between Val Demings as well as, between Val Demings and Marco Rubio. And then I also want to travel a little bit across the U.S. states and talk a little bit about some of the events that are happening political-wise in some of the other states, particularly the Michigan governor's race that is shaping up. So, again, thank you so much for joining. Again, feel free to like and subscribe below, and I will talk to you all later.